What up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel again for another review. It's your boy Terrell, Damien, Cam, as we cover My Adventures with Superman, the anime. Uh, so we were able to watch a good majority of the series to give you a good overall review of what's going on. No spoilers, of course, because they can't really talk any spoilers past the first two, but we can kind of give you our first overall impressions. Let me start off with Cam, because I know Damien's got the juice. Which so far, what did you think of the Superman the anime series?
Um, I had mixed emotions, I think, when I first started watching it, to be honest with you. I thought it was cool. It was a fresh, kind of like a different take on the character, to be able to see, a little bit about the character's background before, as we know it, the Man of Steel, So I thought it was good. I think it started out kind of slow, but eventually it started rolling into, a lot of good fight scenes with, other characters that we're not gonna, name out here. Um, but it has ups and downs, but I'm excited to see where the series goes towards the last couple episodes coming up.
Dang.
So when I DM'd you yesterday, what the hell is going on here?
Right.
There was so many mixed emotions to follow from Cam.
I know what episode you were referring to when you said that.
Because it was
Me
just
and
so
Cam said the same
random.
thing.
I know. I was like, what's going? What am I watching? What am I watching?
And I think that's the best way to put this, is that this show went from being Superman Shippuden to just random bits of the Superman lore thrown in, meeting the Wonder Years, if y'all know that reference, mixed with, growing up Superman and Metroid Prime Zero, where he gets a new power every episode, it seems. I thought that was kind of cool. Like, you're unlocking a new level of Superman. But as the series went on and it got more interesting, to Cam's point, I just kept doing this face, like, what am I watching? Because it was so all over the place in parts, but at the same token, I'm going to get a lot of hate for this. I don't care. I would rather watch this for 3 seasons than Smallville any day of the week. Michael Rosenbaum, I love you, bro, but I would rather watch this than anything that Tom Welling characters did back then. So, yeah, that's a big check mark for me.
Oh man, yeah. Same here for me. I think I was a little bit more. I don't think I had as much reluctancy to go into it because I watch a lot of anime.
Right.
But I didn't expect not only the style of the show, but just the way the storytelling is also shonen. And you can see it that, like you said, with the unlocking abilities, they don't make Superman OP off the break. You know what I mean? Like, he still has certain core things, and not only that, but they change a little bit of the origin. It's not the same story that we've seen 20,000 times. He still gets shipped from Krypton to Earth, but a lot of the components are different. And I think that's something that I definitely liked. I really just fell in love with the art style, just the way that it flowed with the show. So I'm like, why haven't they done this before? Because I already feel like Superman just doesn't get enough press when it comes to the media. You know what I mean? Like, you can get a Batman show all day, because you count it. How many Batman shows have we've gotten versus the Superman stuff? You know what I mean? Like, animated. I might be specific. But no, they definitely knocked it out of the park with this. Like I said, I was thinking like Naruto, any story with a kid that I feel like that I'm not gonna say didn't have their parents, because Jonathan and Martha Kent here. But no, they did an amazing job with just choosing to mesh this up, and it just came out of nowhere too. I don't think when it was announced, people were like, "Wait, what? This is going to be like a?" I thought it was going to be like a little 5 or 10 minute thing. No, this is a 20 minutes an episode. And if I'm not mistaken, we're supposed to get 10 episodes for the season, with Adult Swim premiering the first 2 episodes of the show, which are My Adventures with Superman, which is literally the title. No, it was like my normal day or something like that. Get into a little bit of our new characters here. Clark, Lois, and Jimmy. Everybody's getting a new spin. Everybody's coming in as interns. They're all about 22 to 23. How you guys feel about having a younger Superman? Like, I mean, we've had it before. I mean, but typically Superman's like before he realizes he wants to save the world, he's about 30. So what do you think about having a young Superman?
Oh, yeah. So I like I said earlier, I think it's cool because it's a fresh take on him. And to Damien's point, I would rather watch this than Smallville any day as well, to be honest with you.
Up to what season of Smallville for you? Like,
yeah, that's it. I'll cut it off after that though.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is cool to go, I think, a little bit more into the backstory and the depth of these characters because, you know, it gives them a little bit more edge when you're watching the series. You know, you feel like gravitating more to, you know, the relationship between him and Lois, as well as the relationship between all three of them with, you know, Jimmy as the third wheel in this whole entire situation. So it was cool to see the ups and downs as well in their relationship and seeing where it's, as we know, it's scheduled to go later on. Jimmy's hair was kind of losing me for a second though. They had my man looking like I told Terrell, it had him looking like Jaws from the BK Club at Burger King.
Oh,
I was like, oh man,
exactly like him. Yeah,
he's like a jagged fade in there. I mean, but he's honestly he's a character in his own on this whole entire show, and he really, I think he can stand on his 2 feet. Not getting the whole Jimmy series, but he definitely had a lot more backstory than what we thought we had previously, though.
Can we say that just Jimmy is infinitely locked into being black going forward now?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
that's it.
Like
that's,
can't
go back.
The race swaps for secondary characters in like these type of shows of just like, I mean, like Iris West is now just black. Like this is no question
100%.
about it. You know, just certain characters in the DC universe that have been swapped out. Everybody's just like, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead, Cam. I mean, Dave.
Oh no, yeah, the same. I mean, it's a good point too. You know, because as we know later on down the road with James Gunn, we're going to see Superman Legacy. So I wonder if, you know, he wants to keep all of the characters, you know, quite the same throughout the whole entire DCEU. So I wonder if, you know, we will see a Jimmy Olsen that's black, you know, in the live action version in Superman Legacy. So yeah, no, but I mean, I thought it was good. Like I said, it was different for the most part. Yeah.
Perpetual third wheel Jimmy Olsen was annoying the hell out of me being a C block in the first like 2.5 episodes.
He did it to himself.
I know.
He did.
And I kept saying, dude, catch a hint, read the room, something. But as the series went on, I started to actually enjoy his character, especially the parts where he's proving himself right, where his friends can start believing in him more and stop looking at him with the side eye like, okay, Jimmy, whatever you say. But he became his own singular person, you know, to Cam's point. I really enjoy the fact that he's not just, oh shucks, Superman, please help me out, you know, like boy next door. No, this dude has his own mind, his own thought process. Episode 6, you know, with certain villains and the scientific aspect of it, I thought was great. We got to see the science geek part of Jimmy Olsen, which I was home here yelling about damn Tom. So I thought it was a really good take on a side character that since the 30s and 40s has been relegated to aw shucks. And I think this is a great turn of events. Now, don't get me started on Lois. I had mixed emotions there. I got a lot of Gwen from Ben 10 vibes when I was watching Lois in action. Annoying, conniving, especially in those first 2 episodes, like the little sister, like Arthur was about to punch her in the face kind of thing. And that's the vibe I got from her in the first 2 episodes. But as it goes on, you know, a lot of people complain about making the heroines less damsel in distress, more I can handle myself. And we saw that in the DCU EU or animated universe with Lois and what was it, Justice League Dark, where she's over here pretty much with Suicide Squad running shit. And I like the fact that they went with this version of Lois to not be a typical damsel in distress. And the biggest thing I took from this is the dedication to friendship, because we always say that Clark is the Boy Scout, right? He's 35 years old, flying around in pajamas, talking about truth, justice, and the American way. Well, no, this is a dude. If you really take the concept of Superman, of being the person that does or wants to do the right thing, this fits perfectly for these time periods. Someone mentioned it in the show. I don't know which character. Oh, fake Tony Stark said this in one of the episodes where he basically said, who does these things for free? You know, who wants to do good for free?
It's sketchy.
Yeah, that's Superman's MO. And in today's times, people be like, bro, what's your angle? Because as a native New Yorker, that's the first question I ask everybody. What's your angle if you're doing something nice? So it was a good welcome into the character of Superman with the core values of Pa and Ma Kent in this new age of holographs and the way we saw things play out. I thought it was a really good depiction of friendship and just the evolution of Clark. He's still Clark. You know, the Superman moniker is given by Lois, but he's acting as if Clark, if he had superpowers. So he's taking the Smallville farm boy, I want to do what's best for everybody, help everybody. I just happen to have powers to be able to do it. And I thought that was a really good way to kind of bridge everything together with all the friendship and, you know, the Care Bear stay at this point. Like I thought they were going to pull out at one point with all the goody two-shoeness of it all. But yeah, overall, I like the message if we're going to stick with that.
I can guarantee you there's going to be a Power of Friendship episode because that is a shonen anime thing. Like there's going to be something that activates a power that Superman didn't know he had through friendship and holding hands. I can see that. But yeah, speaking of your point, like just on the characters, like at least Jimmy, Clark, and Lois. Clark, I think for this show gave me more of a Peter Parker vibe.
Yes,
and where he's completely unsure of himself at times. They don't make him as like the confident Superman that we know, where he just kind of knows how to handle certain things. He has no clue if he can get hit by a bullet or not. Like, you know, even though for whatever reason they chose to not use like actual guns, like laser gun. They use the word bullets though, which is weird. But which reminds me of like the early like 90s Spider-Man anime series where like Batman went hard and had actual Glock 22s and Spider-Man had laser guns. You know what I mean? Like, so it was just weird time with cartoons, but he's completely unsure about like the extent of his powers, like, you know, how much damage he could take, what he's resistant to, where we as the audience already know he's fireproof. He can't be hurt by XYZ. But they automatically off the break, we see him get beat on by killer robots and he has a black eye. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we're like, okay, like, so where's the power? That's kind of like every time I watch these cartoons, like, where's the power level of this Superman? Because if you go back and watch the Superman the animated series, they don't make him like, we know he's powerful, but they don't make him like ridiculous. Like, all right, he still has to struggle a little bit, you know, gravity and certain forces to matter. He can't just you know, whatever. But I see that they definitely kind of, they're escalating his power level to a certain extent, because like we see him like as he's fighting the robots, he instantly has like an insta heal and, and then knocks all the robots out. Right. But yeah, we see him, like you said, just kind of figure out who Clark is in the show. Lois, on the other hand, like you said, just watching what we've seen so far, I think this is the most I've ever seen Lois get a lot of play. Just outside of Justice League, Superman in the animated series, just how important her character is to the show. I don't want to spoil anything. It's just how important she is to the show, and her also realizing how big of a big deal that she is. She still is kind of annoying in the show, kind of like the teenage girl. You know, I think we both kind of we had that Mary Jane moment, that toxic Mary Jane moment in the show, where it's just like I'm a figuring this out by any means possible. Right. And then Jimmy, I don't know why it had me thinking about the new Shaggy a little bit from the Scooby thing a little bit. Not as simpy though, nowhere near as like on the simp level as that Shaggy, but he's still pretty cool, and I think he also realizes, all right, I need to step back a little bit, or, you know, XYZ. And eventually, you know, they all figure it out later. But I definitely like them as a trio, and a lot of that. Definitely like I said, we're talking about the origins, Krypton, and just I was gonna figure out how they were gonna do the suit in this. Like, was it gonna be like, you know, Ma made the suit and XYZ? But instead they do it as a Sailor Moon transformation. Yeah. In episode 2, which I don't mind. So I'm confused because it was like that second episode, he transforms to it with it on, and then he has to put it on manually after that.
Right.
I don't know.
What did you think, guys, about like kind of like the suit already being pre-made as opposed to it being made by Martha, and she comes in and adds a little couple accessories, but like the suit being given to him versus being made for him by mom.
So for me, I thought it was a different take, or I thought it was a better take on it, because when you think of Superman, he's extraterrestrial at the end of the day, right? So you wouldn't think, his suit would be made out of like cotton, like it's not going to survive the punches and blows of all these, super beings, and being able to, bear the wear and tear throughout the whole entire fight. So for it to be kind of like transformed onto his body, but still being a cloth, I guess, of natural materials, it kind of made more sense to me. And then also I think Kryptonian was also, or like you called it, you said Kryptonese, right? You were like Kryptonese the first time we heard it, and I thought that was a cool take on it too.
Always talk English,
yeah. And I was like, what in the world? I was like, it was either Marlon Brando out here, with a British accent, or something else. And I'm like, how is he speaking English if he's not from here? So all in all, though, I think this was a better take on the suit, though, for sure.
Yeah, with the suit, I think that's the way it had to be played out. Because if we go back to Man of Steel, it wasn't that it wasn't made in Man of Steel the way we would have saw it in the 40s. So kind of keeping that way of doing it alive with the Kryptonian angles and aspects to it. I've been saying for years, why the hell do Kryptonians speak English they're not from the planet? And I'm glad somebody brought that up to be like, oh, this is a completely unique language. And, he's like, what the fuck are you saying? I have no idea what you're saying.
Right.
Even though we know pretty much what, Jor-El's saying. And at first, I'm not going to lie, even though it hasn't been said that it's Jor-El, little mini spoilers, I was getting Zod vibes from Jor-El when he was doing his speech. Yeah. So I'm curious to see where they go with this, whether or not, the person he's talking to, that's Kryptonian, happens to be a relative or not. I thought that was kind of a wrinkle to get you to think about it. But Ma can't come in with the whole little accessories and the aw shucks, like, oh, you look great, son. Like, oh, that's Superman. Great. But aside from that, he's still an extraterrestrial. He's still trying to figure stuff out. I mean, I kind of dug in when he was wearing the jeans and the hoodie, just because that's what someone like us who had powers, who has no way of creating any super suits, would kind of do. We'd just be floating around here and, in our jeans and our t-shirts, and I thought that was cool for the first episode. But as it goes on and on, the Sailor Moon transformation reminded me of, I don't know what the series was, but I saw a clip of it on YouTube where Superman gets turned into so many different, variations, where he's a girl. He's like, I could work with this, where he looks all luxurious. And I think it was Firestorm was turning him with all the different kryptonites, and he looked like a very beautiful man. Yes, and he looked like such a beautiful human being with the Pantene hair flip. I thought this is exactly where they were going with his transformation, because he's a pretty man. So why not kind of spin into that? Even though, have you noticed also that he's been hunched over the entire series when he's Clark Kent?
Yeah.
Not just talking to Lois. He walks with a little bit of a hunch, like oh, shucks. So by design, I think that's a great way for Clark to fit in with the rest of the world, because he's still awkward. He's still, 22, 21, got a roommate, didn't know Jimmy was his roommate. That was interesting.
Yeah.
But him walking around like a normal, non-extraterrestrial overall, I thought, again, different layers, but they work. There was nothing that screamed, oh, hell no, while I was watching this, especially from the costume, from the way he portrays himself. So pretty steady across the board.
You had mentioned like we talked about the powers coming in different times. So I mean, we all know Superman's powers, strength, flight, heat vision, stuff like that. And it looks like the show starts off. He unlocks. I don't want to say super speed, because it's really just an extension of his strength.
Yeah.
Seems like in this show, he's a normal kid up until like 8 or 9. Yeah. He's pretty, like, like every other medium, like he's super strong as like a baby. You know what I mean? Like, going forward. But I just think that's interesting. Like and then everything else just kind of kicks in later. But it's interesting they just give him flight and the strength, like, pretty early on. What do you guys? I mean, do you have like an issue with like them kind of just giving this powers one by one, or just you think that just makes more interesting storytelling in terms of this show?
I think it just adds more layers to the show, to be honest with you, because I mean, it is different. I mean, the story is so different than what we know from seeing the previous Superman shows, films, or cartoons, because like you said, he is getting powers one by one each episode, but it kind of just adds to the journey, I think, also, of what we're going to see towards the end of the season. And hopefully he's like in some type of, he's not going to be at like, his top, OG level, but like he'll be soon to be formulating that type of Superman. And hopefully, if it's renewed for a season 2, I'm not sure if it is or not, then, we'll be able to see that type of Superman further going on.
This was typical anime progression of the hero. Whenever there's an arc, I'll go back to Yu Hakusho. Whenever there's an arc, Yusuke learned a new skill or technique every 4 or 5 episodes when he was trying to figure it out. So I thought this was a prototypical, like you said, a shonen character. And I know a lot of people that might rub them the wrong way because I didn't like it at first. He doesn't have the powers. He's unlocking it like this was like Samus from Metroid. Like, come on. But as I got to see the rest of the episodes, his whole thing is trial by error. As an uncoordinated teen, even though you have superpowers or young adult, you're still trying to figure it out. How many times did he says, well, I don't really know what I'm doing, or I'm still trying to figure this out. So right. I thought doing it that way was puberty. It's almost like puberty for Clark Kent. I can do this now. Okay, let's test this out. Whereas, we said before about him being OP, it wouldn't have given the show much depth if off episode 2 or 3, he's the Man of Steel. He's the boy of plexiglass as it starts off, and then all of a sudden it just starts to change. And I thought that was a really good wrinkle, to borrow, that quote from Cam, just saying layered. And I think a lot of people will miss that if they're not paying attention, how layered this show is from the different perspectives of all the characters, especially the villains. Again, we're not going to get into it on here, but there was a couple of villains I'm like, that's who this is. I like this, as a new way to spin some of these villains forward. Because, not to sound like the grumpy old man, this is not what I was used to, and right. I'm okay with it. So if I'm the grumpy old man on the lawn talking about, it's okay, kids, this is going to work, it's going to work.
Yeah, as we watch this, it's a lot of inclusiveness and diversity in the show, especially when it comes to the characters. Perry White is now black, so he's gonna have to deal with that.
Thank you, Lawrence Fishburne.
Right. Just the enemies, I guess, without really revealing anything or getting into detail, because I'm not sure what goes on past episode 2. But like I said, we've seen quite a bit of the series so far, and there are like you said, like a new takes on the enemies, and new origins on Superman's enemies. Not really sure how I felt about it. This is I can't really even confirm if they show her in episode 2 or not, but was it Amanda Waller is in there, who we know is mainly Suicide Squad. She's mainly, I don't want to say she's not a villain. She's she's a patriot,
like anti-hero,
right? Yeah. She loves her country. She's going to save the world by any means possible. But she's more associated with Batman than she is anything else, we would say. But they bring her in. A lot of the characters that you probably would expect to be here are not here off the break. But like I said, it's some new takes on it. I didn't necessarily have a problem with it. I just thought it fit the show. I'm hoping that some characters pop up that we haven't seen yet that I want to be there. But other than that, so far so good. And it's still a lot of mystery to us when we watched it. Who's gonna be there and who certain characters are. I don't know how you guys felt about the new enemies and people coming up.
Yeah, I did like it. It fit the scheme of the show. Everything's new, So I mean, they even gave us a different spin on a lot of characters that, like you said, that we've seen previously in the Suicide Squad, or we've known to probably seen in the CW series. quite a few actually from the CW series that we've seen here, but an animated version now. So I think their origin stories alone were really, really put well together. And it's surprising that they were able to fit so much in just 20-minute episodes, though, if you think about it. Because you easily were able to get the origins of, I think, like 4 or 5 characters just within 20 minutes, along with also seeing the origin of Superman as well. So I really like the spin and the take that they're and the direction they're going. There were a couple of characters that I was like, what's going on? Like, what am I watching right now? Like, what? So, so it was kind of crazy, but altogether though, I think they're definitely headed in the right direction with these last couple episodes that we weren't able to see so far.
Yeah, I think they played it as good as they could in terms of villain reveals. I didn't get the sense of a villain of the week, but there were bits and pieces of it at certain moments where you're thinking, this is villain of the week stuff. This is just a throwaway, even though it's a known person in the comics potentially, it's kind of a throwaway thing, at least how we were watching in the first few episodes. I got the sense, if y'all remember Spider-Man on MTV, that's what vibe I was getting from a lot of the villains was the Spider-Man on MTV kind of way of putting an amalgamation of different villains together and making them one, different spins. There was a male in some of the flashbacks where I didn't know who he was until I said, oh crap, is that? And if you've watched Justice League, you'll know who this person is and why he has a beef with Superman. And it didn't dawn on me. And I'm like, oh shit, okay, I get this character now as opposed to during Justice League, because I didn't really understand that person's motivations. But I got his motivations here, and I think that's another good wrinkle, is that you started to understand the villain's motivations aside from just, I'm a bad guy. There's something else attached to it. There's a personal stake. There's reasons that are just far beyond, I'm a bad guy or bad girl. This is why I'm doing this. And I feel rightfully justified with the whole. Think about it like this: when everyone kept thinking Thanos might have been right, that's how I got a lot of like the villains' portrayals and the way they thought of, if I was in their perspective, I'd probably feel the same way, given the circumstances. So I like the unveil. I love that we didn't get a full like blast of all the go-to villains. I like that they're spacing it out. And they're saving some things, for if there's a season 2. But overall, aside from the couple of villain of the week people they threw in there, I thought the main villains were portrayed very well for an ongoing story. And I thought that was good.
All right. Well, I guess we can wrap it here by just saying like overall thoughts of the show. And, like you said, just going into season 2. And I guess well, I guess we can't say what we expect because then I feel like that's confirming what we saw in season 1.
Yeah.
But we just overall what we thought of this what we've seen so far.
Yeah. It's definitely a fresh take on Superman. I'm excited to see what the character's story actually, how much further it goes as far as with the relationship between Jimmy, Lois, and Clark all together towards the end of the season. And I'm hoping in this towards the last episode, I'm thinking we're going to get a big time villain that's going to continue in season 2. But I thought it was good. It was a great series.
Definitely something I would watch. Like I said, it's not hyperbole. I'd watch this over Smallville. I thought it was slow to build up, but as we got to, let's say, episode 4, I started to become more invested. And that's when I was, DMing Terrell, and we're just like, dude, this, that, and the third, and it brought more, it whet the appetite for more things aside from just Superman beating the villain. There was a line from one of the characters that said, "Ooh, I love the drama." I felt as if, there was always some sort of personal drama between the three of them as it's played out, Lois, Jimmy, and Clark. And to your point, Terrell, about the super friend, the power of friendship in the intro, you kind of get that where all three of them are standing side by side like it's a Naruto intro. And I thought, honestly, if we're going to make this about them, because, it's their life with Superman, their adventures with Superman, from their aspects, keep that going. don't minimize either of the side characters, because you're wanting to portray them as something more than side fodder, like actual people of this show. If they keep that going and make everybody as immersed in this universe as the first few episodes we saw, I think this could last a good while. I love the animation. I know some people are going to hate it, and that's fine. Whatever. Everyone doesn't like certain uh, graphical soundings. But overall, the story played slow. But I give this, and you know me, I don't give out number grades, so I'll give this a solid B for the first few episodes we saw. A little bit of room of improvement, but once you get past the doldrums of the first maybe 2 episodes or 2.5 episodes, it picks up.
Yeah, once it's set up and established yourself, like, okay, where are we going? You're definitely right. Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see where this goes and how and how far it can go. I'm hoping to get a good 4 or 5 seasons out of this potentially. I'm hoping to get other powered heroes of the DC universe in this show. I know, like, for whatever reason, like certain shows or certain whatevers that they act like other heroes don't exist in the world, or especially like sometimes Spider-Man, like they don't always have him play with like other heroes in the world. When we potentially we see a young Batman or Flash or Green Lantern, stuff like that. And how once Superman unlocks all of his powers, where do we go from there too? Hoping to see a lot of like the big villains. Obviously the most obvious one, the Mr. Smart Guy. Hope we see him in the series, maybe, because there seems to be a lot of relationships with Clark as a younger, that was established before he came to Metropolis. Something that was bothering was like they're interns, but somehow they're able to afford rent for this apartment.
Right.
I'm very confused by that. So I'm like, does he have a job? How is he able to pay for this? But other than that, man, his relationship with Lois, I expect that to. I'm not expecting where that's going to go, because I wasn't expecting where it went. The episodes that we saw, figured we were going to get that like maybe some seasons in. Yeah. But other than that, I think it's a fantastic show so far. I think it hits all the boxes for me in terms of like obviously rewatch. I'm already thinking about like, man, I can't wait for this to drop on Blu-ray. I definitely, like I said, I'm always looking to see Superman get more love in the animation joint, because like I said, Justice League is cool, but of course that's an ensemble cast. Everybody's got to get their time, but like I said, we really have not gotten animated Superman show since the 90s series, like by himself. Batman has gotten at least 4 or 5 shows since then, if not more. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, my Adventures with Superman, this is supposed to be 10 episodes, going to be on Adult Swim and HBO Max like the next day, which I think is an amazing thing to do, so everybody get an opportunity to see it. I also thought with it being on Adult Swim, it would have taken it to a different level, like violence-wise and adult-wise. No, it just felt like it probably could have been on Toonami or like the regular cartoon blocks. Like, I don't think there was anything that was like too adult or anything for it to necessarily fit that profile. But yeah, like I said, if I had to give it a score, my bias aside, probably like you said, I would probably give it an A, not necessarily A+, because I haven't seen the full thing and like what else we're getting. But like I said, I definitely want to get a season 2 as well. And like I said, I just want to see where it goes, and let's keep this thing going. Anything else, guys?
Shout out to Jack Quaid. That his portrayal of Clark. Man, I'm like, who is this? Because I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I went in blind. So when I looked it up, I saw it was Jack Quaid. I went, wait a minute. How the hell are you pulling this off so well? So kudos to his vocal performance, because he conveys a lot of the confusion, like we talked about earlier, that Clark would be going through at this stage of his life, trying to figure things out. And it was voiced in a way where you could relate on a vocal level. Like, man, I don't really know what I'm doing here. So it made him vulnerable without making him seem as if like he was totally inept. So I thought that was really, really good on Jack Quaid.
I don't know how I completely just missed voice actors, right? Yeah, Jack Quaid is Clark Kent. Alice Lee is Lois Lane. Ishmael Saeed as Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna go into everybody's character, but yeah, it's to make the main. Yeah, so yeah, fantastic voice acting in the show. I think everybody, the casting director, whatever, they picked everybody well. I think Jack was just a given for this. As he tries to do his different Clark Kent and Superman voices, which is hilarious. He tried to make his voice deeper. But other than that, man, great show. I can't wait till we get the rest of this, and then we can watch that too. But other than that, anything else, guys?
That's it for me.
All right. On that note, you know where to watch us. Leave us a comment below. Let us know what you thought about the show. Hope you stuck around after 35 minutes listening to us ranting about how fantastic this show was. Of course, subscribe, like us, share this with your friends. Watch the show as it comes on HBO Max and Adult Swim. No, Adult Swim and then HBO Max the next day.
Right.
I think it's going to be coming on every Thursday. So one episode at a time, which is the smart way to do it. You got to do it weekly, guys. Don't throw it all at once. Weekly show, build up that water cooler conversation. But on that note, we'll see you guys next time for another review. See you.